This is my team effectiveness presentation. I evaluated my work team, which is APU's undergraduate admissions freshman counselor staff. So we're the admissions counselors that bring in specifically freshman students. There's about 9 of us on our team, and we all have different recruiting territories. We're a super tight-knit team. This team, most of those people on there I would consider to be some of my closest friends right now. And so we're a super, super tight knit team, and it was fun to get to evaluate kind of where we were at. On the assessment, I scored the team mostly at 4s with degrees. Um, there were maybe a handful of 5s, quite a bit of 3s, and then maybe again another handful of 2s. I think that there are certain things that our team does really, really well. And then I think there's things that we do not well. And I think they're very apparent. So overall, the average of our 8 scores was about a 3.7. And so the total of all of our scores was a 30.1. Um, we scored the highest for purpose and goals, which was an average of a 4.3. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Most of my team members are APU alumna as well. And so we're all super passionate about getting students to APU. Number one, because if no students come to APU, then there is no university. So we're really passionate about getting students there so we can keep the university that we know and love alive and growing. But we're also all really passionate about the experience that we had at APU. And want other students to be able to have an experience similar. And so we know that the purpose of our office is to get students to come to APU. And that is our goal, to get as many students as we can. And that's something that we're all very passionate about and something that we're all very diligent in working towards. We scored the lowest in 3 different areas. So our lowest score was a 3.4, and we scored the lowest in roles, problem solving, as well as skills and learning. Um, so like I said, there's things that I think our team does really well and things that I don't think we do so well. I think we're a really effective team when it comes to carrying out our mission and working well together and getting students to APU. But sometimes some of those background pieces can be a little bit messy. Communication in my office is not always the best. So for example, one of our counselors recently was promoted, and the rest of the counseling staff still doesn't know. So her roles have changed, but half the staff doesn't even know as she's stepping into this new role, which can kind of be confusing. As recruiting territories change, if you aren't paying attention, you might think that you're recruiting at one high school, and really that's not your recruiting area anymore. So sometimes there's just kind of there's always a lack of consistency, but that's just the nature of the job. But sometimes there's a lack of paying attention to that consistency. So kind of looking at these group factors and how they align or misalign with team effectiveness. The first being purpose, and I kind of talked about that. I think that knowing your purpose as a team totally aligns with our effectiveness as a team. Without that purpose, without that motivation behind it, I feel like it would be hard for a team to be super effective. Leadership is another thing that I think is incredibly important, and I am so grateful for the leadership staff that we have in our office. I think that leadership is what builds a good foundation for the rest of the team. And so without that, you're likely not to be as effective. And when it comes to membership, for our staff specifically, this one's kind of tricky. I think that there's enough people on our team, but there's also so much work to be done that there could always be more. And our little team is like a tight-knit little family. And so membership is something that's really important to us. Another thing that it talks about in here is diversity and That's something that I'm grateful for my team. We want to promote that APU is a diverse place to go. And you can't do that if you don't have a diverse team. And about 5 years ago, we probably didn't have a diverse team at all. But now we have people from all different backgrounds, races that have different opinions and perspective on things. And when recruiting students, that's so important to be able to do that. And then another one, norms. There are so many unspoken norms in our office. It's kind of crazy to keep track of. Kind of one specifically, when I first was hired, I went to a counselor meeting and we started off in prayer. And we had prayer requests beforehand. And after someone stated their prayer request, our boss said, Lord, in your mercy. And everyone else responded, hear our prayer. And I had no idea what was happening, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like what is this?" And it's just one of those norms that now I love that our office does that and we get to do that together. But at first I was like, I have no idea what this is, what I've gotten into, and it kind of made me feel like an outsider. And so definitely letting people into the norms that your office has a big component to the effectiveness as a team, and team cohesion. And then lastly, structure and roles. And this is something that I think if our team grasped more, we could be more effective. Is just knowing whose specific roles are what, and what that structure looks like. Who's going to report to who's in charge of what, and who's doing what. And as things are changing, just being in constant communication with that. Um, and that's what I think our team could do to be more effective as well, is just kind of have more of that openness with one another, and communicating who does what, why they're doing that, and when things change, and making sure that others are actually paying attention to those changes. So that was a lot of information, but that is what my team looks like, and overall, just really grateful to get to work on my team. I think there are places that we could improve, but that's why it's cool to get to do assessments like this to see that in a tangible way. Hope you're having a great week. Bye.